Have you ever seen something from the corner of your eye that wasn't there when you looked again? How about hearing from a friend of a friend that while they were hiking somewhere, they thought they saw something impossible? But when they spoke to a ranger, there was always a simple explanation that left you unsatisfied. My name is Jack, and this is my colleague Chris, and we are senior wardens of the Creature Conservation Initiative. We protect the world from the creatures of superstition and myth, but more importantly, protect those same creatures from the world. Hello everyone who's listening, and hello everyone who's joining us, which is one other person. Chris, how are you doing?
Ooh, I'm so surprised. You know, we don't often have guests on this show, so I'm very excited to be one. Hello everyone. I don't know where this is going. Hello, welcome. I hope. Jack, how are you doing?
We just hope. We just hope.
I'm tired.
I'm doing pretty good, thank you very much. Have you been doing much recently?
Well, you know, I'm preparing for an episode in a kind of way, but, you know, we'll get to that when we get to that. But there was a certain lack of sleep involved. And now I'm barely able to function, which is, of course, the best time to record an episode of a podcast.
Wonderful, yes, we always choose the absolute best time to record anything where you need to be focused, alert, and entertaining.
God damn, we need to
Someday
be that.
We'll get that entertaining part.
No. I wish I'd known.
Yeah, someone should have told you.
Yeah.
Don't know who.
Well, it's too late
They've
now.
only recently told me. But yeah, well, I have already been prepping for an episode because this is one of my episodes, which we all absolutely love, I'm sure.
Exciting, yes. Fabulous.
Yes, well...
Wonderful.
Well...
Delightful.
Any more
Incredible.
adjectives?
Lovable.
I am not going to pursue down that route because I wasn't very good at English. If anything, you would probably know more, and it's not even your native language.
You're assuming a lot about my skill set. I don't know anything about most things.
Well, today we're going to talk about a creature that I actually handled a few months ago when I was doing the Leviathan hunt.
Yeah?
It was over winter time, and, well, I was in a very, very specific part of the world, but again, we'll get on to that. The creature that we are talking about today is one from Inuit mythology called the Adlet, or the, and I'm definitely going to get this wrong, so please understand, this is not a hate crime. It
is just not intentional.
The Erqigdlet.
Okay,
Or the Erqigdlet. Erqigdlet? You'll be able to work it out by yourselves. It'll be in the title.
I've heard of a diglet.
Well, they are very, very different to a diglet.
Great.
Have you ever heard of the Adlet, though? Because that's the name we're going to call them.
Actually, no. I have no idea what that is, to be honest.
Well, you might recognize some aspects of it, because it appears to be very, very closely tied with a few other creatures. But like I say, it is a creature of Inuit mythology, but specifically tends to come up in Greenland, the island of Labrador, and Hudson Bay.
I love Labradors.
Well, that's good because you're gonna like Labradors even more as part of this. You might not like them at the end of this. We'll see.
No, I'm scared.
But that'll make sense in a little while.
I doubt it.
It is a creature that tends to be seen, or at least the habitat seems to be those kinds of areas, rather than everywhere. Yeah, you don't tend to find them on kind of like the proper ice shelf, you know, where you're talking about right up at the poles. They tend to be more on these kind of islands.
Yes, Santa probably doesn't let them on his property.
Well, I would be kind of curious to see what Santa thought about these creatures at the end, if I'm perfectly honest. Well, maybe you can tell us.
Oh yeah, I should definitely be the one to visit.
Anyway, I'm sure you'd like to know a little bit about how they look.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So they look like people, except they have canine lower halves. Okay. So they basically have the below the torso, the legs, the back legs of a dog.
So only the back legs. We're not talking a centaur situation.
No, not a centaur situation.
Okay,
It seems to only be kind of like the lower part of the back legs. It's kind of like they go from the waist down, suddenly turning into a dog.
Okay. Important question.
Go for it.
Do they do the thing that dogs do where they scratch their ears with their legs?
It's not been documented, but I can only assume so.
Yes, I thought so. Carry on.
They are supposedly quite humanoid in shape. So like I say, it seems to be like you've just got a dog, stood them up, chopped it off around kind of like belly button height and stuck a human's body on them.
Yeah.
And they tend to be taller than normal humans. They do have a few little changes though to the face. Some of them do, not all of them. A lot of them have very human looking faces, but we have had ones recorded with kind of like dog-like snouts, and they tend to have quite piercing, bright yellow eyes.
Okay, interesting. So, are we sure it's not just furries?
It might be the precursor to furries.
Oh, the implications. I don't like them.
You have no idea. Oh, you have no idea what's coming up.
Oh, no. How can I bail? Can you do this episode on your own?
You have no chance.
Oh,
and trust me, the furry implications are going to keep coming back over and over again. The stories are wild. But the one thing that the stories, and to be fair, we haven't really done it much ourselves, no one specifically says what kind of lower half dog that they have. Now, we tend to find that they're usually something a little bit more, like a larger dog.
Yeah.
So things like your Great Danes, your German Shepherds, that tends to be how the lower half looks. But like I say, it has not been 100% confirmed in either stories or in our investigations, because we kind of have contact with them, but not that much contact. The investigations have not proven that they are all that kind of bigger dog. So in my mind, I just love the idea that you've got one that's like a Great Dane, another that's like a St. Bernard, and somewhere you've got like a Dachshund one.
Yeah. Little corgi famous for their butts.
But like I say, we haven't been able to find that information out, mostly because through the stories and through our interactions, they tend to be quite hostile towards people.
Oh.
They are seen in kind of the mythology as quite what's the word I'm looking for? Quite a conflicting kind of creature, noting the survival kind of culture that tends to be around the Inuits. Obviously, they're living in extreme cold environments, so a lot of their culture and a lot of their things is based around, survival in a harsh environment.
They're not hot dogs.
But they're also seen as kind of a creation of cultures and the interconnectedness of animals and animal spirits to the wider world. There is a good reason for that, which we'll get onto in just a little while. As a bit more of a description about them, they are fast. They have canine animal-like features to them, so they have very good hearing. Okay. They have very good sense of smell. They can see very well in the dark. They are very, very fast. They are faster than people, very simply. But they're also supposed to be, according to the stories and mythology, quite savage creatures and even cannibalistic to humans, in the sense that they are part human themselves and they will eat people if given the chance.
That all sounds pretty bad for us.
Yeah, they're not a nice creature to come across in their environments, but they're not widespread. There's not huge tribes of them. By nature, they tend to be kind of kept to small numbers.
Okay.
And it's one of those creatures that we try and prevent them from kind of damaging or interacting with people too much, because we don't want them to hurt people. We don't want people to organize to hunt them and kill them. We're just trying to keep them alive. We will even negotiate with them when we kind of can to keep them healthy, happy, and safe without bothering people, but they don't like interacting with us very much. We
Okay.
don't contain them. They are sentient. They are smart. And that kind of leads on to some of the stories that exist around them.
Is this the part where the furry stories come in?
Yes.
Oh no. Why did I have to ask?
So, I'm going to preface this by saying we know for a fact this is not the origin story of the Adlet. However, in mythology, this is the origin story of the Adlet. This is how they came around.
Okay.
And also why they're connected with kind of like the idea of creating cultures and the interconnectedness of the world with animals and their spirits.
Okay.
So the Adlet came about, according to the kind of major story, when a woman named Niviara Siang, which is definitely not how you say the name, but it's how I'm saying the name.
What? It sounded so perfect and beautiful.
Yeah, well, let's not insult music. She lives with her father, Savira Kwon. Again, none of these names. We're gonna start there for a second. None of these names I'm going to say are how you were supposed to pronounce it. I just could not find a way to pronounce it. We're living with this. I do apologise. So, the girl, as I'm going to refer to her now.
Ah, yes, the girl.
Much easier and much safer. Because she would not marry, she was called a very, very complicated word, which I'm not even going to have a go at because it's got about 4 I's, about 3 U's, a load of N's, G's, and yeah, it's not worth the hate crime.
I believe in you. You can do it.
I don't.
Oh, that's why you're the smart one.
I think that's debatable. But anyway, yeah, the girl, she was basically labelled she who would not take a husband.
How dare she?
I know. How dare she in this patriarchal society?
Oh, we're
God,
getting
like a
political
dog whistle,
today,
isn't
yeah?
So it's like a dog whistle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which have become relevant.
Oh, no.
She kept on rejecting various suitors until all of a sudden she decided to marry a dog.
Sure. As you do.
This was a very, very special dog. The Ijira Kwang. It had white and red spots on it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely marriage material.
They proceeded to have 10 children,
Oof.
which is where the furry stuff comes in.
Yeah. So did they have any other hobbies or?
No, they didn't have any other hobbits or hobbies.
God
I
damn
heard
it.
the hobbits.
God damn it.
But these, out of these 10 children, 5 of them were just full-on dogs, while the other 5 became adlets, so the half-person, half-dog. Yeah. So, since Ijira Kwang, the dog, does not go hunting, and the children are very, very hungry, it falls to the girl's father to provide for the noisy household, so provide all the food. At last, he basically got very, very annoyed by this, and he put them into a small boat and carries them off to another island, telling Ijira Kwang, the dog, to come and get meat daily from him. So the idea was that they went off to this island, he told the dog to come and fetch food for the children.
Yeah, so far.
The girl hangs a pair of boots around the dog's neck, and he swims ashore. The father, instead of giving him meat, puts stones in those boots when he obviously gets to the father to get the food, putting the stones in the boots, weighing Ijira Kwang down, to which he obviously, as he's swimming across from the island, he inevitably drowns.
I know this is probably there's a very good and obvious answer, but why did he take the stones out before he swam back?
I don't know. Maybe he didn't know they were there. He was a dog. Maybe oh no, dogs like chasing stones, don't they? I have absolutely no idea. He just didn't.
All right.
It's the story.
Good. I'm not going to question it. Makes sense. Carry on.
So, in revenge, the girl sends the young dogs over to gnaw off her father's feet and hands, and in return, he kicks her overboard when she happens to be in his boat, and when she's hanging off the side of the boat, he cuts off her fingers, which mean that they fall, and her fingers fall into the ocean. And again, this is where the whole creation thing comes in, because apparently those fingers turn into whales and seals.
Oh, sure. Why not? There's at every point in this story, I have the feeling that there's at least 3 plot points missing that I somehow didn't catch. It's like an ADHD dealer telling you a story.
I know what you mean. It took me a while to get it to this nice, easy summary, if I'm perfectly honest.
Okay, sure. So, finger whales.
Yep. But again, that's just a random little extra bit. That's not specifically to the Adlets.
Yeah.
So, the girl, fearing that her father might try and kill the Adlets, which I can kind of understand, seeing as she did send the dogs and the Adlets to go and eat her father's feet and hands.
Yeah.
She sends the Adlets inland, so off the small island into kind of the Arctic Circle kind of area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where kind of the Adlets start to breed and become a little tribe and a little society of their own.
That sounds like a lot of inbreeding.
I know, that's exactly what I thought, but you know what? Again, this is stories. We leave stories to their own thing. And the young dogs, however, she sends in a makeshift boat to kind of Europe, where they become the Scandinavian people.
That sounds offensive.
Exactly. This is a very, very, shall we say, problematic story in many different ways.
Oh, yes.
But you know what? It's apparently the mythological origin of the Adlet. Now, like I said right at the start of that, I don't think so. But you know what? We leave mythologies and cultures to have their own stories. But like I've said already, there are quite a few different stories around the Adlet. One of them kind of came across, and one of them that kind of describes them as being quite savage and cannibalistic, which to me, I don't know if you can argue them to be cannibalistic, because the stories say they're cannibalistic because they eat people, which, yes, they're technically half people, but they're half dog, but we kind of see them as their own species, so is that cannibalistic? That's kind of a semantic argument to me. But the ones that make them sound quite savage, yes, they are quite aggressive if you come across them, or at least they can be quite aggressive. They're not naturally just immediately aggressive and dangerous to people. They just can be. Is a story that was told in New York in 1897 to 1898, the winter of those years, by an Inuit who, for some reason, was in New York at that time, who was called Smith Sound Eskimo.
I don't even know how to comment on that. How about we move on?
Yep. He told them all about a story of a pair of tornits, which is another Inuit creature of mythology, that was caught by a tribe of Adlets, and it's kind of described throughout that story the Adlets being quite savage and cannibalistic and nasty, and that those tornits escaped that tribe through using cunning and guile to, make their daring away from that creature. And a lot of the stories that surround Adlets in the Inuit culture tend to show people or other creatures winning, kind of besting the Adlets in some way. It's very rare that they are the victors. So Adlets are less of like a horror story or like the boogeyman, which, is something, that a lot of cultures tend to pull together, and more of a creature that exists around their culture to be like revered in some way as some kind of creation, some kind of spiritual entity, if that makes sense.
No, I guess I can understand that.
Some cultures and some people have tried to describe Adlets in the same kind of way as Wendigos, which is another creature that we're going to talk about at some point, or werewolves. but they're kind of seeing it very much in that kind of animal person. Kind of, they're an animalistic person in some way. Whereas, like I say, the Adlets, they are half and half. They are their own tribe. They do exist in their own kind of society. It's a small one, but they are there, and we obviously at the CCI do a lot to try and hide them away from real people for no other reason than we just don't want them to go extinct from causing trouble.
Yeah.
We know what people are like.
Exactly. When push comes to shove, they don't have the numbers to do anything about human aggressors, I suppose. So
no, I mean, if you go by the stories, they weren't exactly the most proficient defenders of their own land to begin with.
Okay.
And that is from 100, 200 years ago. If we're talking now more modern day times, I don't know how well an Adlet will stand up to, say, gunfire.
Probably not very well.
If they're not monitored and I don't want to say incursions, that's not the word. Their activity isn't kind of well documented or prevented, they could end up causing their own extinction. Really,
yeah.
Because people just find them to be a pest or something. It's that kind of thing. And so we at the CCI do a lot to try and prevent that.
Yeah.
Which brings me on to my interaction with an Adlet.
Oh, did you make them go extinct?
No. I think I would like to say that I think I actually actively helped maintain the population for a little bit.
Did you know?
Not like that.
Of course not.
Oh my god. Not like that.
Sure. That's where the furry angle comes in. Now I get it.
No. So I was over on what we call Baffin Island, which is a small island kind of that falls under the Canadian sovereignty and all that. When I was in the middle of kind of the Leviathan investigation, if you are interested in hearing about the Leviathan, listen to one of our previous episodes, or two of our previous episodes, all about it. And be prepared to be absolutely terrified and shown the insignificance of your existence.
Absolutely. Do it now. Pause this episode, go back, listen, then resume this episode. Comment, subscribe, and like, and tell us about your experience of pausing this episode. But for now, Jack, go on.
Well, like I say, we were tracking some kind of signatures around Leviathan, and it was kind of in the winter, which on Baffin Island, it is one of those parts of the world where they get towards winter, they get that long periods of darkness, and in summer they get long periods of sunlight. So it was around the dark time of the year for them. And so I was there with one other member of my team who will remain nameless, just because they're a young member. We don't really want to bring them up. We don't want to advertise them.
We don't want to name Dave.
No, we don't want to name Dave at all. And while we were just following collecting some seismic kind of activity in the area, because Leviathan does create that kind of a response, just to see if the Leviathan had been in that area according to some of the images we've got. It became very clear all of a sudden that, because we were probably about a mile or so out from any kind of civilization that you could even call civilization, just because those kind of areas tend to be very, very small, contained, strong villages. And it became very clear very quickly we weren't alone, that there was something with us. And
there's a fairy among us.
What we found was that we were actually being surrounded by Adlets.
Okay.
And they are quite striking in the dark. They are very, very good at stalking towards you, again, because of the canine kind of side of them. They are able to stay quite low to the ground, but like I say, they're much taller than me. I mean, I'm not exactly a massive person. I'm kind of average height, if anything, maybe a little bit below. These are big creatures.
Okay.
And slowly they start kind of advancing onto us. And kind of surrounding us a little bit.
And
Now,
not the thing you want to see in the night.
No, definitely not what you want to see in the night, especially when it's nighttime and it's actually 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a bit weird.
Ooh.
I wasn't too worried because we were actually in an area of the world with things like polar bears, so we were armed. We had weapons on us, we had rifles on us to try and prevent polar bear attacks.
There's a joke in there about bear arms, but I'm not gonna make it.
I think
Can't
that's
do
probably
it.
for the best. But as I was saying, yeah, so I wasn't too worried, but at the same time, I didn't want to start shooting. Now, the other thing is, I very much insist on rubber bullets when we are dealing with these kinds of things, because I like polar bears. I don't want to shoot a polar bear. We did have a proper firearm on us as well, just in case, but you know, that's more of a forced thing. The rubber bullets tend to do the job. And my team member, they had essentially the rifle with them, so they were kind of spinning around, trying to pinpoint one, trying to make sure they could get a shot off somewhere to try and scare them off. However, like I say, we were being surrounded by about 4 of them. So even with the best one in the world, we're not going to be able to fight off 4 of them very easily. Especially when you're wearing winter clothing, it's very hard to, this is not a dexterous kind of moment for us.
Exactly. And they can probably see 100 times better than you in the dark.
Yes. However, I had heard that there was some Adlet sightings, shall we say, in the area, according to one of our research team. And one of the things I knew about Adlets, like I said already, is the heightened kind of sensors, so things like the hearing. And one thing I do know also about dogs is they can hear frequencies that humans can't.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has ever listened to a very, very high-pitched noise at a very high volume. It can be quite debilitating.
Not the nicest thing in the world.
Yeah. So, I had a little device that just makes a very, very loud, high-pitched noise that is too high for me and other people to hear, but perfect range for the Adlets to hear. And while
we call it the Mariah Carey.
He's not joking, guys. Really, we do.
Yeah. But at this point, I've forgotten. It's called MC something something. I'm not sure what it actually stands for, but
colloquially, it's the Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
So I played this very, very loud. It disoriented them, and I managed to kind of calm my fellow warden down, and we basically very quickly made our way to our vehicle. Now, one of the good things about the vehicles that obviously we use in that part of the world, very robust, very well armoured, very well insulated because of the armour, to try and keep you warm, obviously, in that kind of environment. So we got inside there and we were completely safe. They couldn't get in, not easily at least. So after we got in the vehicle and I turned off the device, they did come up, and whoever was obviously their leader made a point of knocking on the window. I think they were trying to break the window, but it seemed it's a robust vehicle. It seemed more like knocking on the window. And when it became very clear to them they weren't going to get inside, we weren't going to be dinner, they did start to move away. What I did, though, is I cracked the window just a little bit so that I could talk to them. And I basically ascertained that they were quite hungry, that they were coming close to kind of people and human settlements in the area because they wanted food. Very simply. They were just wanting more and more food. So what I did was I told them I would sort out a airdrop, and we would just basically just drop, not frozen meats, but kind of like jerky, things like that, like cured meats. That's the word I'm looking for. Just the kind of thing that can easily be maintained for a long period of time. They can then do with that what they wish. I'll have it dropped about 100 meters away from where we currently were in that direction, and it's up to them what they do with it. They can either ignore it or they can take it, at which point we then just drove off. which kind of shows there isn't that much peril to dealing with adlets nowadays, as long as you've got some gear on you. And
as long as you can order airdrops of food.
Well, I mean, we had a budget. It was Leviathan hunt, for God's sakes. Plus,
I mean,
we've got
probably in a pinch, maybe Uber Eats will do it.
Well, we also have this kind of thing set up for these kind of creatures, because what was the alternative? We let them keep coming closer and closer to one of the kind of research stations, one of the groups of people, and then we get back to that whole point of, okay, then people are going to start hunting them. So, it's one or the other. So, yeah, we just had an airdrop, and as far as I know, it went off well. I wasn't there. I kind of left afterwards. And I assume it was dropped. I should probably check on that.
Maybe you should.
But either way, I don't think it's how their hunts are supposed to end.
What does that mean?
Well, they're hunting creatures. They're supposed to either fail the hunt or succeed in the hunt, not fail the hunt, negotiate with the creature that they're trying to hunt, and then watch that creature drive off.
I mean, they did get food in the end, so you could argue that the hunt was successful, just unorthodox.
True, but still, it's certainly was an odd one.
Even the furries have to go with the times.
Organizing food for them is how I managed to keep the population going, not the creepy, weird way in which you described or thought about it or tried to insinuate. Yeah, that's adlets for you. They are a really, really kind of interesting creature with a very strange kind of lore to them, and definitely isolated out in the wild. Do not go to these places. I mean, you won't be able to get to most of these places anyway. Baffin Island, pretty much you can only really get to with Canadian government approval anyway. And please remember, we are trained wardens. We knew what to do in that environment. You are not a trained warden. You have not come across this creature. You will probably end up on, I don't know, a spit.
Probably. Or maybe you'll freeze to death before because you don't have the proper equipment. But that's neither here nor there.
Possible. But anyway, Chris, where is a place in which they could freeze to death if they don't have the correct equipment?
Well, if they don't have the right equipment, one place that they shouldn't go, no, we want them to go there. One place they should go to die is the ice-cold embrace of our Discord that that embraces everyone in their final moments of joy and happiness. Freezing to death is supposed to be linked with euphoria and everything, so that analogy totally makes sense. Don't stop me, don't question me. Anyway, go to the Discord. Talk. Thank you. I very much appreciate it. Anyway, go to the Discord. Talk about episodes we've done, request new things for us to talk about, because between Jack and I, we have seen a lot of things in the wild, and chances are we can tell you something about them. You can talk to other people about how stupid we are, but that would be very insulting and you would probably be banned. But
engagement is engagement.
Yeah. You do you. And just go there and join our little community. And while you are at it, Jack, what's another thing they can do while they're waiting for the confirmation email from Discord?
Well, one of the other things they can do is they can go and find us on their podcasting app of choice or on YouTube and watch and listen to even more episodes, because this is around episode 40, if I remember correctly, which means there are 39 other episodes of much higher quality, I can assure you, of various creatures. To be fair, there's more than 40 because we've done a few specials here and there of just various creatures that you didn't know were actually real. There's one for, I'm sure that there's something that'll excite you in some way, shape, or form. And
talking about
the good thing is, They are all evergreen. You do not need to listen to them in order. So go find your favorite creature and learn about it. Find out about it. See how we've interacted with it. Who knows? Sometimes we come off as heroes. Sometimes we come off as idiots. It depends on the day.
The latter happens a lot more often. Let's be real.
Yeah, who knows how we got to be senior wardens, but we did.
You know, best not question it. Maybe that's why they make us do the podcast, so we can do less damage in that time.
I mean, Santa is always a good example of us doing too much damage. But yeah, but anyway, no matter what, just give us likes, give us follows, give us all those different things for engagement, because we love engagement. We love the idea that there are more people. Share this with people, get them hooked on it. You know you love this, so just show people the things you love. If you love something, you should share it with people.
Share it.
Maybe.
Share the love. Free love, etc., etc.
But anyway, on that kind of creepy ending, I think there's not really much else to say. And you would probably like us to say... you would probably
Maybe
like
sorry.
us to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
So thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.